Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Simone McKinney, WTOC's digital anchor and reporter. We're on to day 3 of the Leilani Simon trial. We're going to take you inside the courtroom in just a moment, but just a few notes for you. This live stream is 30 minutes delayed per the judge's orders, and because of that, we kind of know what's coming up next, and I wanted to give everyone a warning that there is going to be some graphic content that comes up in a few minutes here in the live stream, so keep that in mind if you're watching. Again, this live stream is delayed 30 minutes. You can always stay up to date with the latest information in the case, in the trial, on our website, WTOC.com. We'll keep you updated both online and on air. Right now, I'm going to take you inside the courtroom. They're just getting started on this live stream, so they should be starting in just a bit.
Are we ready to take our places? Please bring out Ms. Simon. All right, good morning, everyone. We are on the record for the state of Georgia versus Leilani Marie Simon, SBCR 22-03364J6. Let the record reflect that counsel are present for the state. AUSA Tim Dean is present, ATA Jenny Parker, and Detective Lemons, and that Ms. Simon is present with her counsel, and she's seated between her counsel, Robert Purse, and Martin Hilliard. Is the state ready to proceed?
The state is ready, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
We are, Judge, but we may need to take up something.
Mr.
I'm paying attention this time. I turned it on. We may need to take up something outside the presence of the jury, Judge. and again, we can do it later this morning at lunchtime, it doesn't matter. But there's some evidence that we expect the state to try and get into this morning or early this afternoon, and we just need to deal with that before we get to it. So other than that, that's all we have to deal with today, Judge.
So, Mr. Dean,
I think now would be a good time to take it up.
that was my thought too. I want to let the jury know what we're doing, that we just have some matters that have to be taken up outside their presence, and then we'll go ahead and dig in. Bring the jurors in, please.
Jury is not entering. That's everyone, Judge.
Thank you, Burke. Good morning. Please have a seat. Good to see you. Everyone else, please have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a good evening. Thank you for being here on time and ready to go. I have to ask you these questions. Has everyone been able to comply with my instructions not to discuss the case or do any research?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's a yes from everyone. And so while we are ready to get started right now, there are some matters that have to be taken up outside the presence of the jury. That will happen occasionally. I think it may have already happened some. So I wanted you to be brought in so that you would know we're not out here just twiddling our thumbs. So I'm going to have to ask you to step back to the deliberations room so we can deal with those legal matters.
Jury's exiting.
All clear.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Hilliard, I'll turn to you.
Your Honor, the state's put me on notice that they're going to attempt to get into some text messaging. It looks like beginning on or around September 25th of 2022, up to, and I don't want to put words in Mr. Dean's mouth, but it looks like through maybe the day of October 4th, 2022, of an alleged affair between Ms. Simon and an unknown subject by the name of Craig. And the text messages were provided in discovery, and they were part of the phone extraction, and they were done pursuant to the search warrant. If I'm making a misstatement, let me know, Tim. However, the main thing is the motion in limine I'm making is to exclude these text messages as they're more prejudicial than probative, number one. Number two, they don't relate to any material allegation in the indictment. None of the false statements accounts are in relation to these text messages. Number two and number three, I don't think that they do anything other than attempt to introduce her character into evidence and interject her character improperly. So for those reasons, I make a motion only to exclude any testimony regarding these text messages back and forth between the unknown subject, Craig. So I think that's short, succinct, and to the point. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Mr. Dean?
The court will remember that our motion pertaining to intrinsic evidence that we intended to introduce listed as one of those categories evidence of tension, unhappiness between the defendant and her boyfriend. And that has now been ruled admissible. This specific aspect of that, I think, is, I don't know that we explicitly addressed this on this past Thursday. But the original motion, part of it was, and this is in there, the court can look back, and things were so bad between the two of them that it pushed the defendant to commence a sexual relationship with her drug dealer as a form of solace in the weeks leading up to Clinton's disappearance. And this would be evidence of that. As Mr. Hilliard said, these text messages extend from September 25th to October 4th, so they're tightly connected in time to the day of the crime. And I'll talk just briefly about what they show. I have, as a matter of fact, I'll approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 83.
All right,
I have a copy of it as well.
thank you.
Here's how it comes up naturally in this portion of Detective Lemon's investigation. At this point, we've just seen this interview, these interviews yesterday, where she identified the drug dealer whom she saw that night as Red. Okay, she calls him Red. Sometime after that, but still, this is the night of October 5th, early morning hours of October 6th. They go through her phone in some more detail, and they find a bunch of text messages between her and a contact saved as Craig. And they ask her who Craig is, and she says Craig and Red are the same person. So she's identifying Craig now as her drug dealer, and not just any drug dealer, but the ones that she ran off to that night after getting into an argument with the defendant about about his lack of sexual desire for her. Okay? So this is the person that she's going to in response to that incident between her and Mr. Youngkin. And now, after opening statement and some of the evidence, I expect the court to be a little more familiar with our theory of the case and how what was going on with the Danny defendant relationship, how it plays into what happened that night. In these messages, one, they make out a recent sexual relationship, and I'll just draw the court to a couple messages in particular, so you don't have to read them all. On page 9, so page 9 of the document, starting at line 123, this is an incoming message from Craig to the defendant on October 1, in which he says, "That was good as fuck. I'll take that anytime. Friday. No, I made you come for a long time." And she responds on line 124, "I would be down to do that again anytime." And then she sends another response at line 125, "And yes, you did for a good ass minute." All right, so that's thing number one. They clearly make out a sexual relationship. Thing number two is that there's some indications in here that there is a connection to Danny. On page 2 of the document, line 13, at the top, the defendant sends a message to Craig. Starting at line 12, Craig sends a message to her saying, you okay today? Your man here? And she responds in the next line, yeah, I'm okay. He's on his BS today and I don't feel like arguing. So there's some of that in here that they're talking about Danny, and she's talking about it in kind of a frustrated tone. So we do think that these messages and the fact of this relationship are part and parcel of the Danny defendant status of the relationship kind of subject matter that has already been ruled admissible. They're sort of intertwined with that. And it's further intrinsic to that night because that's the guy who she was going to see and whose house she was at for 10 minutes. This is not just character assassination. It really does help tell the story, okay? The other thing, and this is similar to the argument that I made for some of the Stingrays stuff the other day on Thursday, is that they, in the interview that comes next, they've seen these messages. And so they ask her, who's Craig? And she says, oh, that's Red, same guy, that's a drug dealer, this guy I saw that night. And they ask her point blank, is there anything going on between the two of you? Is there a sexual relationship? And she tells them no. Right, so she denies it. Again, even if she hadn't denied it, even if she had said yeah, I think it's still admissible for the reasons that I've articulated to this point. But then the fact that she denies it makes it further irrelevant because she's charged with making numerous other false statements in the same interview. We have to prove that those statements were knowingly false. And part of that involves proving that she was lying up and down about basically everything she talked about that day. So that's why we think this evidence ought to come in. I understand that there is some prejudicial effect to it. However, the test is not whether there's some prejudicial effect. The test is whether the probative value of the evidence is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. And I just think that's a very difficult thing to say. You know, the rules are supposed to be rules of inclusion. Exclusion based on 403 grounds is characterized in the case law as an extraordinary remedy. And given that he was the guy that she went and saw that night after this fight, and part of our case is saying that she was in this fraught emotional state, I just don't see how the court can say the probative value of this evidence is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. I mean, these are the facts of the case. These are the facts of that night. So that's our position on this evidence, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Hilliard.
Your Honor, 24403 states specifically, the relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of the issues, misleading the jury, or by considerations of undue delay, waste of time, or needless presentation of cumulative evidence. Whether or not she had this affair, or whether or not she was having sex with this person named Craig, bears no relevance to any of the issues in the case. I understand Mr. Dean wants it to be, but his argument that he just made was, well, she's charged with other false statements in the indictment, so the fact that she made false statements about having an affair means that she might make these other. That's propensity to commit a crime. Okay? It's exactly one of the reasons to exclude prejudicial evidence. So I understand why Mr. Dean wants it. I understand why he's asking for it. But
Go ahead.
that's the main reason to exclude it, not include it. So that's why we're making the motion in limine, Judge, and we leave it with the court.
All right. I'm going to take a moment to consider what you've both just presented. So let's take about a 15-minute break. We're in recess.
All right, so as you heard, the court is in recess to as the judge reads over the evidence that they are deciding on. So I'm going to take this moment to kind of recap the last few days of the trial to make sure that everyone's on the same page. We will return to the live stream once they return to the courtroom. So I want to show you some video of the trial on day one. This is from Monday of this week. And the trial for Leilani Simon continues today. Simon is accused of killing her son, Quentin Simon, back in October of 2022. Simon has pleaded not guilty to these charges. So what you're looking at right now is Monday's video. We heard from more than 2 hours of opening statements from the prosecution, laying out the investigation from nearly beginning to end, starting with the state of Simon's romantic relationships and how they believe she feels about her children, her whereabouts that night and the day she initially reported Simon missing, and the search for Quentin Simon. So here's a clip from State Prosecutor Tim Dean.
Because what we have to prove, what is important, is not exactly how she killed him, but that she killed him. The fact that she did it.
And so we did hear from Tim Dean just then, and the defense's opening statement was significantly shorter, and they're focusing on the main point that they say the prosecution's case is built on speculation. And here's a clip from their opening statements.
Because frankly, this whole case is about rumor, gossip, speculation, and innuendo, and ultimately the state's bold conclusions about what they say happened but can't prove.
And so after hearing their opening statements, testimony began, and we started to hear from various members of Chatham County Police Department and law enforcement that responded to the scene that day that Simon reported Quentin missing. We first heard from Sergeant Bobby Stewart, and here's a bit of his questioning with the prosecution.
Most of the time when we get to a residence where a child is missing, mother's upset. She's hysterical. She's crying. She's telling us, what are you standing here for? Talking to me? You should be out looking for my child. You're wasting time. And just, they're so hysterical, a lot of times you can't talk to them.
Was the defendant like that in this case?
No, sir.
Did you view her demeanor as consistent with that of other parents that you've spoken to in missing children cases?
No, sir, I didn't.
And so after hearing from Sergeant Bobby Stewart, and the defense also questioned the sergeant on how many people arrived to the scene that day, that October 5th, 2022, when Quentin was initially reported missing. Here's the defense questioning the sergeant on that.
And wouldn't securing that scene mean you prevent people from going in or out?
That's correct.
Okay. Wouldn't it also mean that when you send techs in to go ahead and secure or look or search or do something like that, they would actually be wearing gloves or have some sort of bodysuit on so they would not contaminate the scene?
Yes, sir. You talking about the officers that went in and searched?
Talking about all of the officers that were out there. It seemed like you had an ungodly amount of people out there that day.
And so we continued to hear testimony from law enforcement that day, talking about their initial response to the scene, and that testimony went into day 2, which is the video you're seeing on your screen right now. Day 2's testimony continued with members of Chatham County Police Department, starting with Corporal Philip Schenker, who talked about the hundreds of images that he took on the scene of inside the home, outside the home, inside the car that Leilani is said to have been driving, as well as outside. So while examining inside the vehicle, Schenker testified to spraying the vehicle with a chemical that would eliminate any kind of blood, and they did find a spot on the driver's side per his testimony. And both the defense and prosecution questioned on how he handled that evidence and what happened next. And here's a bit of a recap from that testimony. This is from yesterday, Tuesday, with Corporal Philip Schenker with the Chatham County Police Department.
Take pictures of that spot with the lights off, glowing blue with the blue star chemical in it. And did you make those images available to detectives?
I did.
And is it detectives who ultimately make the decision about what particular things in the case need follow-up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more. And just not to belabor the point, but that was one of those things that didn't need follow-up, correct?
I didn't believe it did.
That's all the question I got. Thank you, Judge.
And so, alongside Corporal Shanker, we also heard from Detective Marion Lemons, who did multiple interviews with Leilani on the day that Quentin was reported missing. We actually heard in the courtroom hours of those interviews. You're seeing an image of it on the screen right now. We watched hours of the interviews with Leilani on that day that she sat with detectives. The prosecution questioning her responses, questioning Detective Lemons about how she was responding to questions. And here's a bit of that back and forth with the prosecution.
I'd like to ask you a couple questions about the defendant's demeanor in this and other interviews, okay?
Yep.
Was her demeanor consistent throughout any given interview?
Absolutely not.
Can you tell us why you say that?
I mean, as we saw in this interview, she would kind of get into these hysterical, yelling rants.
And would that happen in response to any particular lines of questioning?
Sometimes when it kind of questioned her statement or her timeline, it would start to escalate into this.
Okay. And when she got like that, was it then difficult to get an additional question in?
Yeah, we would have to calm her down before she would engage back with us with a back and forth conversation.
Is it fair to say that during these interviews, when pressed on certain things, she would become histrionic and just kind of fill the room with noise?
Yes.
And so we continued to watch hours of those interviews yesterday, right up until the end of court. And so we're expecting to hear further questioning of Detective Marion Lemons today. As you know, the court is in recess while they review certain pieces of evidence. But here's a little bit of a recap of the end of the interviews that we were seeing yesterday and what we expect to hear questioning on today.
There was no accident. There was no somebody falling. There was no horse playing. There was no door being left over and a child walked outside. There was none of that. None of it at all. Whatever happened, somebody picked that baby up out of that playmate and they took it with them. That's what they did. There's no way he can get out of that playmate on his own.
And so you're taking a live look inside the courtroom. We expect them to return momentarily, and we will bring that live stream back up as soon as they return, so make sure to stay tuned here. Again, we're expecting to hear the continuation of Detective Marion Lemons and her testimony today, as we ended off yesterday with those interviews showing for a couple of hours yesterday. So we're expecting to hear further questioning. Make sure you stay tuned with us. We'll bring up that live stream as soon as it comes back. Again, we are 30 minutes delayed. The time, one thing I want to make note of, the time you're seeing at the bottom of your screen is current, but we are on a 30-minute delay. So just keep that in mind. We'll return once the court returns. All right, so they're just about to return to the
so
courtroom
we
for
are
the
now
Leilani Simon
back
trial,
on the
so we'll
record
return
in
to that courtroom
PCR
in just a moment.
22-03364 J6. There was a motion in limine by, oh, that's right, we need Ms. Simon. Would you bring Ms. Simon out? That was a little bit more of a break. Okay, let the record reflect that Ms. Simon has joined both of her attorneys at counsel's table. The attorneys for the state are present as well. We've taken a break on the defense motion in limine with regards to text messages that the state intends to present and admit into evidence. I've heard and considered the arguments for both. At this time, the court does find that the unredacted version of the text messages is inadmissible. I went through and read all of the text messages. The sexual and salacious nature of some of the text messages in the exhibit are not relevant to the charged conduct. Now, after applying the balancing test, 403 balancing test, court finds that the probative value is that the prejudicial matters outweigh at this time the probative value. So they're not going to come in at this time. Now, if things change, the court will consider it, but at this time, that's court ruling. Madam Clerk, I'm going to pass down State's Exhibit 83.
So, just to be clear, is it just the exhibit, or is it any testimony about, from Detective Lemons about what they saw in the phone and what seemed to be going on with the defendant and Craig, and asking her about it and her answering? Is it just that the specific language in the messages is a 403 problem, or is it the subject matter in general?
The language is a 403 problem. Mr. Hilliard, do you object to the detectives just testifying about the information with the defendant and Craig/Red?
Well, my motion had to do with the prejudicial effect of. My motion had to do with the prejudicial effect of this affair, Judge. It has to do with the sexual nature of it, which has nothing to do with the charged conduct, the reason we're here, or anything to do with the indictment itself. So my motion had to do with any reference to the affair, the language, or anything like that. So I don't know how you can parse it out. I mean, we know that she went and met Red, but I don't think that there's any reason to get into the sexual nature of these text messages, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And actually, I know how I see it in terms of parsing it out. The text messages don't come in, or at least the unredacted text messages do not come in as they stand right now. The fact that she met with Red has already been some of the testimony and some of the evidence. I do find her meeting with Red is intrinsic. How far should the court go? Far should the evidence go in the sexual relationship? You know, at this point, I'm going to find that the sexual relationship with Red is inadmissible at this time as well.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
I just wanted to be clear that it was, and the only reason I ask is the court initially referenced the unredacted text messages, which suggested to me that perhaps there was, in the court's view, some way of sanitizing it or sort of softening the evidence that would make it admissible. But I understand the court's ruling. Of course, we accept it, and we're ready to move on.
All right, I thank you for your clarifying question.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard.
I understand it as well.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that we need to take up before we bring the jury out?
No, Your Honor.
And I take it that we're going to pick up with Detective Lemons?
Yes.
Okay. And let's bring in the jury, please.
Jury is not entering. That's everyone, Judge.
Thank you. All right. You may all have a seat. Thank you. And the question is, have you been able to comply with the court's instructions? Yes. Have you discussed the case with anyone? No research done? All right. Thank you very much. We will now resume. Mr. Dean, you may call your witness.
Marion Lemons. Yeah, I think when we left off, we had just finished the interview that ended right about 10:30 at night on October 5th, is that right?
Yes.
Later that night, did you and Special Agent Snyder interview the defendant one last time?
We did.
Again in the interview room?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would publish from State's Exhibit 3 a file bearing the file name Interview Room 2355 to 0038.
Give me 1 second, Judge. I just want to make sure. No, Mr. Dean, I discussed it, Judge. There'll be a little bit added at the end, but other than that, no objection.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Mr. Dean, you may proceed.
proceed. We'll see whether I can. All right.
Come back to you. Hell no. Like we've come in here several times and told you. Like I've been open about everything that I could, and whatever I didn't clarify or say right, whenever I'm clarified, I would never be the reason when something happened to my baby. You can understand that. I was so serious.
Well, they always say it did happen. Just relax. Just relax.
It's hard to relax, because not only have I lost my son this morning when I woke up, he's not there. But by the end of the night, I'm sitting there being told that everything looks like it's my fault. It's my fault because I put my son to bed last night and woke up to him being gone. That's my fault.
What happened? There's so many inconsistencies, Leilani, in your story.
How? I've even sat there and got on like 360 for hell, pulled up anything that I could to show that this is what happened, this is where I went, this is what I did, here's the proof that this is where I went. Every time I left our house, you can ask Tammy, you can ask everybody that them babies were all in that room. Every single one was in that room. When I went to bed, every single one was in that room. And yes, they were perfectly fine. Yes, they were breathing. Yes, he moved when I touched him. Yes, they were all in there. And they were perfectly okay. Okay? And then I got up, he was gone. You want to talk about a mother's worst nightmare? A mother's worst nightmare is not knowing dang well at all if your child is even okay or not. A mother's worst nightmare is not knowing if you were ever going to even know what actually happened to your baby. It's not sitting there wondering if he's going to get a proper funeral. It's wondering if he's ever going to get one at all. It's wondering if you're ever going to know what happened to him.
Let's just say he's not going to until you let us know the accident that happened.
There's nothing that happened. And I'm gonna say that there's no accident. There's no inconsistency. What? Because I forgot to say something about my hand back up front, and then I came out clear and true about it. Told you about it.
Take a Percocet last night.
No, I did not. I did not take a Percocet right now. I'm gonna go piss in the cup for you right now.
What did you do to
Right now.
alleviate the pain last night?
It was the Orajel. There's even Orajel in that freaking bathroom thing. There's one that's empty, which is the one that I ran out of when I called to ask to see if I had more. To see if they had more. No. So I got the one from her. Now there's one in there that's empty and there's one that's not. You have to see that in that bathroom. It's in the mirror. Okay?
Do you recall exactly when you left and where you met?
Yes.
Misty.
Misty.
Okay.
Exactly where I met her at. Right there. Like where those mailboxes and stuff you got. Yeah, bro?
What's Misty's last name?
I can't recall. I worked with her over before Sky was born. Before Sky was born.
We got to talk to Misty right now. How do we get a hold of her?
My phone is, I had her number in there, and that's what I called her. I downloaded text now and tried to call that, and I called it and got through to her. So I asked her, I just straight up said, you still have those mouth problems you got going on. She said, big old thing right here. I can give you where she works at.
Where does she
I
work?
can at least give you that. She works at Bojangles. Bojangles on 17.
On Akichi?
On Akichi and 17. I can give you that. I don't know her
Is
last
she
name.
a white lady or black lady?
White lady. White lady? 4'11", maybe. 4'12".
How old is she?
40s. Late 30s, early 40s.
What kind of car does she drive?
She walks, which is why I had to come all the way to her.
What shift does she work at Bojangles?
I can't tell you that no more. They were not even opened up for dinner when I was there and when I was working there, and they are now. So I can't tell you what shift she's working.
What color car was she driving when you met her at the Orajel?
She lives over there by Chevron or whatever. So she walked up and met me at the front of her neighborhood and gave it to me.
What other cars were there when you met her? Was it any?
There was a tan older car, almost like a cop car Ford something, or whatever, tan sitting in her driveway.
In her driveway or the driveway or at the Chevron?
No, like when I pulled up, I could see, like where she lived at, you could see her walk out of her driveway and walk up, and I'm pretty sure that was in her driveway of the tan car. So, but I've never seen her drive a car at all. She's always walked to work and walked home, to the point that I was giving her rides because it was too hot at one point to do that. So,
When did the cereal spill in the back of the car?
that's been there, I won't lie, even like over a month. My friend gave me a big old bag of a whole bunch of baby cereal that she didn't have anything to do with. I put it in the car.
What type of baby cereal? Like the
First.
stuff that you put, like it's almost like a rice consistency?
Rice or oatmeal is what it is. And
What
it
type
was
of
that,
container was it in?
the actual container itself that comes in from the store.
What does that look like?
It's blue and it's about this big and comes up like this. And it has a screw on top that pops open. Oh, whatever.
And what happened? How did it come?
Two of them that she gave me, she had just opened and she tried it with her baby, her 9-month-old baby, and it didn't work very well with him. So she gave me those and a whole bunch of the other ones that she bought. When I put it in the bed of the car, got home, took it out, the bag ripped, it fell, it spilled. I got another bag, collected up if I could, and took it inside. I still have all that baby cereal from that day except for that one.
And just describe to me again, when you came home at 10:50,
That was from leaving red.
I was leaving red, and that's when you went and you rubbed Quentin's hair.
I moved his hair out of his face and did this right here, and when I did, he said, and curled up. Exactly like that. Don't even like, it was like, stop touching me, and curled up.
And then when you left again, when you left to go meet Missy,
And it was like 1:13.
did you go by and check on Quentin as you walked out the door?
Yes. Yeah, and he was fine. He was still in the same position he was in when I moved his hair.
And what door did you walk out?
The back door.
The back door? At what time?
I can't remember exactly what time I walked out. I left the house like 1:13, so I probably walked out about 1:12, 1:11, and got in the car. And I went out the back door because that's where we park all the cars at. That's where we park them all at. So we always only use that back door. That front door is only ever used to sit outside to smoke. Or let the kids play in the front yard.
Have you ever left your house without your phone before?
Without my phone? No, I always have my phone on me.
Everywhere you go?
Everywhere I go, work, home, even if it's dead, I have it on me. Always. You know, I do fail to charge it all the time, but I normally,
At any point last night, was your phone go dead and you didn't have a charge?
no. My phone was on at all times last night. It was even plugged in next to the bed when I did lay down. When I did get in the cars, the phone's out 2 or 3 or 4%, so I did plug it in. If it wasn't plugged in, it would have died, and my trips both times would have ended, you know, before I even got home. Y'all would have seen the time that I arrived home if it didn't stay on.
Do you normally meet Red out there at the Flacos Tacos area?
In that general area, normally it's ride share that we got ride share across, but it had a lot of people there, and there was Rover going to a board.
Where or who like coordinates with Red?
What?
You or Danny? Or like who talks to Red?
Honestly, it's got multiple different numbers, so like we message or we call one, or I'll get in contact with like his cousin. His name's Craig or whatever, and ask. It's never like he never has the same phone number.
You said Craig?
Yeah, I got in contact with Craig and I'll ask him, but that's just because they live at the same property.
Where do they live at?
For our street name is right after that ride share. It's like one of the first driveways after the ride share on the left hand side. One of the very first driveways.
Is it just Red and Craig there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some other lady that lives in the back, but that's none of my business. That's the whole other property.
Okay.
So,
Is it just you that kind of deals with them, or does Danny too?
and we both do.
That too?
We both do. It's whoever decides to go, if we do decide to go.
Okay. Do they both deal the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
They both do the same thing. They don't even do nothing more than that. That's just what they do. They get old pills and get old weed.
Gotcha.
How long a time, or, minutes, seconds did you interact with Mitzi?
Missy, she walked up. I said, "Hey girl, how you doing?" She said, "I'm good." And she was like, "How's your mouth?" I said, "Good, good." It was too taken out, but it's hurting like hell. And she was like, "Here you go." So that was literally like probably a 2-minute conversation, and then she went home, and I got in the car and went off.
Did the ordeal give you any relief?
Enough relief to lay down long enough somebody is getting for somebody. So, you know, all I did was Congo, Oreo was out in the middle of it, called it up, put it in my mouth, bit on it. When I bit on it, my saliva going in it, made the Oreo come out, and stay in this juvenile area, which allowed my mouth to get numb enough to let go and go to sleep.
All right, I've stopped the playback at 13 minutes and 47 seconds after midnight on October 6th of 2022. Now, you mentioned that you did go through the defendant's phone that day
I did.
manually. You talked about just thumbing through the actual phone itself.
Yes.
Did you look at the cell brite extraction that day, or was it just manual review?
For me, it was just manual.
Did you look in her text messages with Danny Youngkin?
Yes.
And in those text messages, did you see anything that was notable to you in terms of unsent messages?
I did.
Can you tell us about that?
There was a drafted message at the bottom that said getting Orajel,
When
or
you
headed to get Orajel.
Headed to getting Orajel or headed to get Orajel?
Yes, sir.
Pardon me for interrupting you. When you say a drafted text message at the bottom, can you just walk us through? I mean, I think everybody probably has cell phone.
Sure.
Can you walk us through very as clearly as you can what you mean?
Yeah, when you go to text somebody on your phone, you hit the little bubble at the bottom, type what you need to, but you have to send before it actually goes to that person. This was just the draft before she sent it to Daniel.
Just in the box where you type, but she had not hit send yet.
Yes.
Send yet. Okay. On this day, was the defendant kept in the room the entire time?
No.
Was she allowed to go out and smoke?
Yes,
Did that happen multiple times?
it did.
And in fact, on one occasion, did she just show herself out to smoke and walk out?
Yes,
Was she provided with food
several times.
and water?
Yes.
Now, at what point in the day, I guess it's, now we're on the morning of the 6th, right?
Yes.
At what point did y'all decide it was time to wrap up and get some sleep?
Well, we had finished at her residence, and shortly after this interview, we arranged transport for the whole family to return to the residence.
Okay, so did the three who were there in the police station that day go back to the house?
They did.
And did you stay there working, or did you go home and get some sleep, or what?
I stayed there for a little while and went home for a little while.
Now, I want to talk to you about the following days. Was there an effort made to follow up on the Misty Orajel story?
Yes.
And who was responsible for following up on the Misty aspect of that story?
Yes. For Misty, it was Special Agent Snyder.
And when did that happen? I mean, he'll testify about it, but when did it happen?
The following day.
Was there an effort to follow up on Danny's whereabouts on the morning of October 5th?
Yes.
And who was tasked with following up on that?
That was Detective Noble and Special Agent Solomon.
Okay. And was there some follow-up on Paul and when he had gotten home and so forth?
Yes.
And who was responsible for that?
Detective Noble and Agent Solomon.
Did they go out to the warehouse and get timesheets and some video?
Yes, the warehouse where everyone worked.
And there was some mention in these interviews of Henry Bubba Moss Jr.
Correct.
And we heard yesterday from 2 FBI agents that were involved in that follow-up
Yes.
From the Augusta FBI office.
Yes.
Now, at some point, did somebody obtain Henry Bubba Moss Jr.'s phone records?
Yes.
And who was that?
I believe we got the phone number from Special Agent Osden, and then we obtained the phone records afterwards.
And was that Detective Wilkins who got Henry Moss's phone records
I believe so, yes.
and relayed them to you?
Yes.
Now, was there follow-up on the vehicle, the Dodge Journey?
There was.
And what did that involve?
A search warrant was applied for and executed on the vehicle where we examined the inside, the outside, and then we also did what's called an infotainment search warrant.
And what is an infotainment search warrant?
So the electrical box that's in your vehicle, that stores data. So what we do, it's called an infotainment search, and we're just seeing what kind of data is stored in that electrical system.
And what kind of data can you get from those from some vehicles?
From some vehicles, you can get as meticulous as every time a door opened or a light turned on. Others, we don't get anything.
And you as the investigative team tried to do that in this case?
We did.
Was that effort successful?
It was not.
Why not?
That make and model did not have the data in that system.
Okay. But you tried.
We did.
Now, one thing on the vehicle I'd like to ask you about. We heard some testimony from Officer Schenker at cross-examination about a potential spot of blood on the driver's seat.
Yes.
And we also heard him testify that he provided all of his pictures that he took that day to you.
Yes, everyone was in constant contact with each other.
I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 84. And how many pages is that?
It is 2 pages and 4 photographs.
2 pages and 4 photographs?
Yes.
Front and back?
They are.
Um, 2 pages front and back.
Correct.
It's on page 1. It's the same picture on the front and back.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Same for page 2.
Yes,
Do you recognize those images?
I do.
What are they?
It is the front seat of the Dodge Journey, one with plain light and the second with the alternative light.
Is that the blue star that Officer Schenker was talking about?
Yes,
Where you can see the spots lighting up a little bit?
correct.
Okay. And is the first picture, can you see the little spots in there as well?
That may be the spots right in the center, but it's not like an apparent red or anything like that.
Okay. Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 84.
No objection, Your Honor.
What is 84 is it this?
And I'll publish this to the jury. All right. On the screen here, are we seeing the first picture in that exhibit?
Yes,
Okay. I'm going to zoom in here. What do you see there?
3 small dots.
Do they appear on their face to be blood to you?
No, they don't.
Can you tell whether they're fresh or old?
No, it's not. It doesn't look like fresh blood.
Moving to the next image. What are we looking at here?
It is those same 3 dots under the blue star.
Now, you were aware of this during the investigation?
I was.
Okay. Did you view it as significant?
No.
Okay. Is, in an investigation, does every item that you collect or every observation that you or somebody on the team makes turn out to be important?
It does not.
Can you explain what you mean?
Especially in this type of investigation, but really any, you start as broad as possible, collect as much as possible, and look at every single thing you can. And then you start to realize what's important, what's not. And this is one of those that we did not deem important in our investigation.
Let me ask you a question, sort of for example, about electronic devices. How many phones are we to be talking about in this case?
Of significance, 3.
Okay. How many electronics did y'all seize from the house in the course of the search warrant there?
Probably over 15.
Okay. Old computers, old phones?
Thumb drives, CDs.
Okay. And we have about like 37 people on our witness list.
Yes.
How many people were interviewed in the course of this investigation?
Well over 100.
And I think we introduced 100-some images that Officer Schenker took of the residence on
Yes.
September 5th. And how many did he take total?
I believe it was almost 400.
Okay. Were some of them in the RV under the carport?
Yeah.
Any reason to think the RV has any relevance to the investigation?
No.
Okay. Were some of them in Billy Joe Howell and Thomas Howell's master bedroom?
Yes.
Any reason to think that that room has any relevance to the investigation?
No.
How long do you think it would take to try this case if we were to call every person that you all interviewed and introduce into evidence every picture and item that you all collected at the broad stage of the investigation early on?
Including the canvas that Special Agent Osden provided, months.
Thank you. Now, one more question in reference to the driver's seat and the spots. I have to ask you this. On October 5th, at headquarters, you interacted with the defendant a lot.
Yes.
Was she menstruating that day?
She mentioned that she was, yes.
And did she have to go to the bathroom a couple of times to apply feminine hygiene products?
Yes.
Thank you. Was there a follow-up with these 3 cell phones that you all had taken that day?
Specifically Leilani's.
Can you tell me about that?
So at Chatham County Police Department, our system's called Celebrate that does the forensic extraction we talked about. Savannah Police Department, though, has a system that can do a deeper dive into the phone. It's called Gray Key.
And what happened in reference to the defendant's phone?
Yep. Detective Cox reached out to Savannah Police, and they did a Gray Key extraction of her cell phone.
And did that have something to do with the fact that it was an iPhone?
I believe so. iPhones like to be difficult.
Now, was there a follow-up done in reference to the Chevron/Azalea issue?
There was, yes.
Can you tell us, generally speaking, about that?
Yes. We went out and looked for video footage in that area. The Chevron gas station as well as Azalea Mobile Home Park both had cameras.
And when you say we went out, were you involved in that?
I was.
And what day was that?
That was on the 6th, the following day.
Okay. So you were involved in the video canvas in that area?
Correct.
Were you there when they collected the footage that day?
I was not.
Okay. And was there follow-up in reference to the dumpsters and garbage trucks and ultimately the landfill?
Yes.
And who was the point person for that?
That would be Detective Noble.
Now, we heard some testimony yesterday from Special Agent Osden about the involvement of the CARD team. Can you remind us of what that acronym stands for?
Yes, it's the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, and we asked him to come down and assist.
Now, were you the lead detective for the Chatham County Police Department at this point?
Yes,
And who was the lead for the FBI?
Agent Brad Snyder.
Did the two of you work directly with the CARD team?
We did.
And can you tell us about what that involved?
We wanted as much information and as many resources as the CARD team could give us. One of those things was a template for a canvas that our team did.
And what did the canvas operation look like? Where did y'all do those things?
So canvassing, easily broken down, was just knocking on every single person's door. We did Buckhalter Road, Gerarda Avenue, into Azalea, as well as I-95 and Highway 204 area.
And what was the manpower requirement involved in this thing, this canvas operation?
We broke out into 3 teams, those 3 separate locations. Each team probably had roughly 30 law enforcement officers.
And how many teams now?
3,
3 teams?
so around 90.
Okay. And how many days did this canvas operation take?
I believe it took 2 days.
And did each encounter involve filling out a questionnaire?
It did,
And those are questionnaires Special Agent Oskin talked about?
yes.
And did they help you tailor those to this case?
Yes, he did.
I'd like to approach with an object that I do not intend to introduce into evidence, but I would like to just talk about it a little bit. And just to make the record clear on what this is, what is this here? What are we looking at?
This is binder 4 of my case file. It is the template canvas sheets that were filled out.
What size binder is that?
It is a 5-inch binder.
And roughly how many pages of interview form canvas questionnaires are in there?
700.
Did you guys also set up a tip line?
We did.
What is a tip line?
So we just used a extra cell phone, and we put up a voicemail advising people to call this number, or excuse me, we put about a notice advising people to call this number if they had any information on Quentin Simon's disappearance. And then a voicemail was set up asking whoever was calling to give us as much information, and we would call back if it was something to follow up on.
Was that something that was done on the advice of the CARD team?
Yes,
As part of the best practices in investigating a child disappearance, and
Yes.
possible abduction?
yes.
Tell me about the manpower involved in responding to tip line calls.
One of the detectives at all times was assigned to the phone and to follow up on each one of the voicemails that was left, to review them to see whether or not they needed additional follow-up.
Does the Chatham County Police Department have a dive team?
We do, yes.
Was the dive team involved in on October 5th, 2022, or the days following?
Yes.
What is the dive team?
So it's, I think it's in connection with Marine Patrol, but it's scuba divers who have the proper qualifications and do search and rescue.
And did the dive team do anything in this investigation?
Yes, they did.
Can you tell us about those things?
Yes. Behind the residence is a in-ground pool that had a layer of algae on it, and standing above it, you aren't able to see inside. So the dive team went in and made sure there was nothing inside the pool. As well as during our canvas, there's several ponds in the area, and they made sure to look through those as well.
I think you've already said that you did receive the defendant's Cellbrite extraction from Sergeant Coleman of the forensics unit?
Yes.
And did you review the extraction of her phone?
Yes.
And did you find any evidence in her phone revealing anything about the state of her relationship with Danny Youngkin in the days, weeks, months leading up to October 4th?
Yes.
Can you describe that to us in broad terms, please?
Through their text messages, it was pretty apparent what kind of relationship they had.
Anything other than text messages?
There was some concerning web searches as well.
Any videos?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
There was a clip that was recorded on August 6th of 2022 where Leilani was blaming Daniel basically for the suicide that she was about to go commit.
Now, have we prepared a couple of exhibits capturing the things that you just described?
Yes.
Do you see in front of you an exhibit marked as States 18?
I do.
Can you tell us what this is?
It is a series of text messages between Leilani and Daniel.
And were those pulled from the Cellbrite extraction performed by Sergeant Coleman?
They are, yes.
Do you see a disc marked as States Exhibit 19?
I do.
What is that?
I believe it is the suicide video.
The video that you just described?
Yes.
And do you see in front of you a document marked as States Exhibit 20?
I do.
And what is that?
It is a web search that was found on her cell phone.
Okay. Do you want to introduce these items in as States 18, 19, and 20?
Any objection, Mr. Hood?
With regard to 18, Judge, no objection. You said 19? Or 20? No objection as to 19. No objection as to, I think, the photograph. And no objection as to number 20, which is...
Okay, so states exhibits 18, 19, and 20 are admitted without objection.
Your Honor, at this time I'll publish States Exhibit 18. And may I have a seat?
Yes.
Thank you. We have on the screen here slide 1 of States Exhibit 18. And what I'd like to do with this exhibit is just have you tell us the date of the message and read the message, okay?
So this was sent on 7/12/22. It says, I want to feel beautiful, not barely average. I want to feel loved, not just liked. I want to feel wanted, not just tolerated. I want to be able to look at you and know it's just me, not wondering how many others there are. I want to feel like my body is worth showing off, not like it's just been trashed from having 3 kids. I want to feel the way you made me feel in the beginning, like I'm treasured and safe, not like I'm just here because you really don't have a choice.
Slide 2.
Sent on 7/15/22. And I damn sure ain't the reason why you talk to other bitches in the first goddamn place or you put your dick in to begin with.
Slide 3.
On 8/6/22. Yeah, go get yourself some ass. I know mine is good enough. Never was, never will be.
Now, the video that's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 19, when was this video, were you able to tell when the video was filmed?
Yes, we were.
Okay, what was the date that that video was filmed?
On August 6th.
At this time, I will publish State's Exhibit 19.
To Sky, Zane, and Quinn. Mama tried. Your mama's not here no more because she doesn't want you. I do. I can't love myself. If I can't love myself, how can I love y'all? I have tried over and over and over and I failed. I scream for help and I don't get it. Sky, you are such a beautiful little girl. I wish I could watch you grow up. I wish I could hold you for your first heartbreak because my mama didn't. Sky, I love you, baby girl. And Zane, you were so handsome, so sweet, so protective. You were gonna be such a good man one day. Just a good man. I hope you grow up and you learn what loyalty is. And you learn how to treat a woman and how to love a woman. And Quentin, baby, you are a middle child. You're so happy all the time. You smile all the time. I wish I could see what kind of man you would be too. And Danny, I loved you. I loved you with all of me, all of my heart. I loved you. I worshiped the ground you walked on. When we found each other, we were both in such fragile states. And I built you back up. I would do anything for you. But during this time that I was building you back up, you were doing things that would eventually tear me back down. And even now, after everything that I think has been brought to the light, hopefully it was everything, right? Even now, you look at me with the same look in your eyes that you have when you talk about Caitlin. I don't hear the love in your voice anymore. I don't feel the love in your touch anymore. And I definitely don't see the love in your eyes anymore. If you truly loved me like you claimed you did, you wouldn't have done all that. Even when I was carrying your child and hating myself every fucking day.
moving back to States Exhibit 18, slide 3. So is it the case that that message on slide 3 was sent the same day that video was filmed?
Yes.
Slide 4.
This is on August 22nd in 2022. There's no being past it when you have done nothing to make me feel better about myself, when you have done nothing to make me feel like you still want me, like you did before, so stop.
Slide 5.
This is on September 9th. Hope you had fun with whatever bitch you met up with.
Slide 6.
Also September 9th. You can take everybody else's feelings into consideration, but you don't take mine. You can hang out with everybody else, but you don't want to hang out with me when I want you to.
Slide 7.
September 9th. I really fucking wish I never drove to North Carolina to meet you. That was the biggest mistake I could have ever made.
Slide 8.
September 9th. No matter how much I stress how I'm feeling, you don't give a shit. No matter how much I scream and cry, you don't change nothing. You say doing the same thing or being even more distant or hanging out with anybody but me.
Slide 9.
September 10th. You're the reason I'm angry every day. You're the reason I'm depressed, why I feel the way I do about myself.
Slide 10.
September 10th. When I was pregnant and moved down here for my kids, you chose other women or porn to satisfy you, not me.
Slide 11.
September 10th. When I need reassurance, you continue to change password to hide phones to have it on silent.
Slide 12.
These are both on September 17th, and they are requesting for Daniel to join Life 360.
So that text in the box, would that be text that she typed or more like a link that she sent to him?
A link.
Requesting that he do what now? Reading those first few words?
Join my Life 360 circle.
Can you tell us how far apart these two invitations were in time?
24 minutes.
Slide 13. This one is exceedingly difficult to make out on the screen, so can you walk us through what slide 13 is?
So these are both on 9/18. Excuse me, all four of these are on 9/18, and they're all the same hyperlink sent to Daniel.
Separately?
Yes.
Slide 14.
Sent on September 21st. I'm tired of begging for sexual attention.
Slide 15.
Sent on September 21st. I'm not good enough to fuck. Not good enough to even try to fuck.
Slide 16.
Both sent on September 21st. No, I don't feel amazing. I feel like I'm a girlfriend that you got to hide your shit around because you don't want me to know what the fuck you're up to. I feel like I'm just the person that you keep around because you're comfortable with me, not because you want me. I'm tired of feeling like I'm sexually worthless.
Slide 17.
On September 21st. No, I don't know you love me. I know you're comfortable with me. I know you're used to me. I know you don't want me to love anybody else, but I do not think you love me because you do not want to have sex with me. You do not want to spend time with me if you do not want to do anything with me anymore.
Now slide 18, this one looks different from all the other ones, right?
Yes.
Was this one in fact taken from Danny's phone?
Yes.
But is it from the defendant?
It is.
And can we tell that because of the phone number and the way he has her saved?
Yes.
All right. And he had her saved as what?
Lonnie baby.
Okay. Now, can you read this message for us, please? Well, actually, let me ask you this. When was this one sent?
The day before Quinn's disappearance was reported.
Okay. What date and time specifically?
October 4th.
At what time of day? And look carefully before answering, please.
It's at 1:49 a.m.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and read it, please.
So I fell asleep on the couch for a min after I came back in. Woke up because Sky was starting to fuss. So I made her a bottle, right? Then as soon as I'm about to crawl into bed with you, I hear my phone go off. So I go to check it, and it was like 360 saying, ask Daniel to charge his phone. So when I opened the app and saw that your phone was at 1%, I won't lie, it made me start to think again, and there is a possibility that I'm just overthinking. But here are what my thoughts were. He knows we gotta work in the morning. He was just on his phone literally right before he laid down. Why didn't he plug it in? Well, he said he wanted me to be nice, so I guess I'll plug it in for him. My dumbass literally grabbed the charger and then went to grab your phone, but guess what? What happened when I got to that point, Danny? I couldn't find your phone. I don't understand how you expect me to believe when you say I'm not doing anything wrong or I don't have anything to hide, when one, you never let me look at your phone without a fight, even when I offer mine in exchange. Two, you always 24/7 keep your phone on you when you're awake and hide it when you're asleep. And three, never leave it around me at all. SMH. Even when we have work and your phone is almost dead, when it's time to lay down, you still choose to risk it, possibly dying and us missing work. All because what? Because to me, it's because you have something to hide. Because why else would anyone do anything? Because why else would anyone do the things you do if they weren't hiding something?
Do you know what SMH means?
Shake my head.
Okay. And so this would have been in the middle of the night before the morning of the trip to the dentist?
Yes.
Was there an effort made to follow up on what exactly happened at the dentist?
Yes.
Do you see in front of you a document marked as States Exhibit 21?
Yes.
What is that?
The top page is a certification of medical records from Aspen Dental. And then the following pages are the medical records from Leilani Simon's dental work.
Specifically the dental work on the morning of October 4th.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer these in the State's Exhibit 21.
This is, Exhibit 21, Mr. Hilliard, any objection?
No objection, Judge. It hasn't happened there with the business record.
All right, and 21 is exhibited, is admitted without objection.
And we don't need to belabor this, but do these records show that she did in fact have a tooth pulled that morning?
Yes.
Now, during this investigation, did you follow up with Michelle McCarty?
I did.
And did you conduct interviews with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you conduct an interview with her daughter, Talia McCarty?
Yes, I did.
And did you conduct some follow-up on Quentin himself?
Yes, I did.
Did you obtain his past medical records?
Yes,
And is this a normal step in a child death case?
it is.
Where did you yourself get medical records from?
The two search warrants I did were from the local pediatrics office. Well, locals in Georgia. But
What was your goal in getting his medical records? To get some of them, to get all of them, what?
all of them.
Do you see in front of you a document marked as States Exhibit 27?
Yes,
And do you recognize that document?
I do.
What is it?
It is a search warrant order for medical specialists in Waynesboro, Georgia.
What type of practice is that?
I believe it's a pediatric medical facility.
And how did you know to go there for Quentin's medical records?
I believe it was in interviews with Leilani, the family, as well as Billy Joe.
That's a past pediatrics clinic that he had been seen at?
Yes,
And did you send that search warrant to that practice?
Yes.
And did they turn around to you his pediatric records from there?
Yes, they did.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 27.
No objection.
Admit it.
Now, what is State's Exhibit 28?
It is a order, an additional search warrant for some more medical records.
From what practice?
It is the J.C. Lewis Primary Health Care here in Savannah.
I thought J.C. Lewis was a car dealership. Is that not the case? Or?
I guess they have several buildings.
Okay. So they have a pediatrics clinic or indigent care clinic or something like
Yes.
that? Okay. And was that Quentin's last pediatrician?
To my knowledge, yes.
Did you send them this search warrant?
I did.
And did they turn around his pediatrics records to you?
Yes, they did.
Your Honor, I would introduce this in State's Exhibit 28.
No objection.
Did any other detectives involved in this case get additional medical records for him at your direction?
Yes.
And who was that?
Detective Cox.
And did she provide the records that she obtained to you?
Yes, she did.
Did you incorporate all of the medical records you got into your case file?
Yes, I did.
And did you turn them over to our office
Yes, I did.
so that they would be turned over to the defense as well?
Yes.
Now, do you see in front of you a document marked as State's Exhibit 23?
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It is a search warrant sent to Verizon.
And what number is it for?
It is for 912-547-5275.
Whose phone number is that?
Leilani Simons.
Did you send that search warrant to Verizon?
Yes, I did.
This is a search warrant you prepared?
Yes.
And did Verizon turn responsive records around to you?
Yes.
They gave you her phone records?
Yes.
Do you see a disc labeled State's Exhibit 24?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It is the response I received from Verizon containing Leilani Simons' cell phone records.
Did Detective Cox also get some cell phone records in this case?
Yes.
Did she provide all the cell phone records that she got to you?
Yes, she did.
And did she obtain records from Life 360 directly?
Yes.
And did she provide those to you?
Yes, she did.
Were all of the phone records obtained in this case and the Life 360 records provided to the FBI for analysis?
Yes, they were.
And were the cell phone extractions, both the 3 cell bright extractions and the 1 gray key extraction, were those provided to the FBI for analysis?
Yes.
I would introduce States 23 and 24 into evidence, Your Honor.
Your Honor, with regards to States 23, subject to the court's ruling regarding some of those text messages, we don't have any other objection other than that. What was 24 again?
The records from the carrier themselves.
Let me reverse that. As to 23, no objection to the search warrant, Judge. As to 24, no objection, subject to the court's ruling on those text messages.
All right, thank you. 23 is admitted, 24 is admitted subject to the earlier ruling.
Do you see in front of you a document marked as States Exhibit 25?
Yes.
What is that?
It is a emergency situation disclosure from Verizon. It's a form they had us fill out.
Okay. And what was that form for?
It is for cell phone records.
What's the area code that you are looking for records for?
It is 706 area code.
All right. And whose phone number is that?
Henry Moss.
All right. What's the full number?
It is 706-526-1978.
And who sent this to Verizon?
Detective Wilkins.
Okay. And did he receive responsive records and provide them to you?
Yes, he did.
Do you see in front of you a disc marked as States Exhibit 25? I'm sorry, 26.
Yes, 26.
And if you don't, just tell me.
I have 26.
Okay. What is that?
It is a response from Verizon for that phone number.
Your Honor, I would offer 25 and 26 into evidence at this time.
No objection to 25 and 26, Judge.
Thank you. 25 and 26 are admitted.
Have I formally offered 28, Madam Clerk?
Madam Clerk has.
Was search warrant or for JC or medical?
Yes, ma'am. I just don't remember whether I actually offered it or not. Thank you. It's been admitted.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, you testified about the fact that Special Agent Snyder went out and talked to Misty, right?
Yes.
And that you all did this video canvas at Chevron and Azalea, right?
Yes.
And I think you said that both of those things happened on the 6th or the 7th or something along those lines?
Yes.
On October 8th, did the defendant come to the FBI office in Savannah for an additional interview?
Yes, she did.
And who conducted this interview?
Bridget Brock.
Is she an FBI agent?
Yes, she is.
And did she come down from Quantico, Virginia for the purpose of interviewing the defendant?
Yes.
And were you present in the building for that interview?
Yes, I was.
And were you watching it in real time?
Yes.
Were you in the room?
I was not in the room.
How were you watching it in real time?
Through the security camera in the room, we put it up on the monitor and watched.
Okay, so you were watching on like a live feed from a different room.
Yes.
Do you know the video recording equipment in the interview room that the defendant was in to have been working during that time period?
Yes.
In fact, you yourself conducted interviews in that room with other people.
Yes.
And have you reviewed the videos from those interviews?
I have, yes.
And do those interviews fairly and accurately depict what was said between you and your subject?
Yes.
Do you see in front of you a disc marked as State's Exhibit 22?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you know what that is?
I believe it's the interview from the October 8th interview.
Now, has that one also, as with the October 5th interviews, been redacted to some degree to comply with orders of the court?
Yes, it has.
Does it otherwise fairly and accurately depict at least the relevant portion of Bridget Brock's interview with the defendant on October 8th?
Yes.
Now, did Bridget Brock confront the defendant in this interview with the fact that video footage showed her not stopping at the Chevron, but rather pulling into Azalea and remaining stationary at the dumpsters for 2 minutes?
Yes, she's directly confronted with that.
And what did the defendant have to say to that?
She says that that did not occur.
Did Bridget Brock tell her that Misty had been interviewed and had told the FBI that she hadn't seen the defendant that night?
Yes.
And what did the defendant have to say to that?
She says it did occur, that she did talk to Misty.
Did the earlier 204 trip also come up?
Yes.
And what did she say on the 8th about what the purpose of that trip was?
To pay off a drug front for marijuana.
And is that the same story she had told about it on the 5th?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I'm ready to publish this interview. It is, however, 12:25, and I will throw that out there before I do so.
How long approximately is the video?
I'd have to check.
Anyway, you expect it to take some time. So I'm going to turn to the jury. I know we started a little late this morning with taking evidence. Do you want to go through this at this point? We can go a while longer before we stop for lunch. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Why don't we continue on before we take a break? Does anyone need a comfort break at this time?
I do, Judge.
I was gonna say, I think I do too. So, let's break for about 15 minutes. I think we all need to stand up before we start up again. So, just again, remember, don't discuss the case, and remember the court's instructions. Okay? See you back in 15.
Jurisdiction.
Thank you. Okay, let's take a 15-minute break. It's about, it's almost 12:30. Let's just come back in and plan to get started up again 1:45. Thanks.
So as you just heard, they're going to take about a 15-minute break. So that puts us around 1:12, 1:15, around when we expect to have the live stream continue. So we'll bring that back as soon as they return. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're expecting the court to continue in just a few moments. They took a short break. I wanted to get on here and kind of recap some of the things that we've been hearing this morning. We are still hearing from Detective Marion Lemons with the Chatham County Police Department about those initial interviews and investigations into the case. So I want to play you a little clip of what we were hearing before they went to break. The prosecution was asking Detective Lemons about an FBI interview, and here's a bit of that.
Did Bridget Brock confront the defendant in this interview with the fact that video footage showed her not stopping at the Chevron, but rather pulling into Azalea and remaining stationary at the dumpsters for 2 minutes?
Yes, she's directly confronted with that.
And what did the defendant have to say to that?
She says that that did not occur.
Did Bridget Brock tell her that Misty had been interviewed and told the FBI that she hadn't seen the defendant that night?
Yes.
And what did the defendant have to say to that?
She says it did occur, that she did talk to Misty.
Did the earlier 204 trip also come up?
Yes.
And what did she say on the 8th about what the purpose of that trip was?
To pay off a drug front for marijuana.
And is that the same story she had told about it on the 5th?
Yes, it is.
All right, and this is perfect time. It seems like everyone is coming back into the courtroom. You can see the judge is seated there, so we'll continue with the live stream.
All counsel are present. So we're going to move into the video that you have. And is there anything that we need to do before we bring the jury in?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Please bring in the jury.
Jury is not entering. All clear, Judge.
Thank you, Birch. All right, and everyone please have a seat. And members of the jury, were you able to comply with instructions? No discussion about the case and no research? Okay, very good. Mr. Dean.
When we left off, I was asking you about State's Exhibit 22, which you identified as an October 8, 2022 interview recording of the defendant's interview with FBI agent Bridget Brock, right?
Yes.
And that was conducted at the FBI office in Savannah.
Yes.
Did the defendant come in willingly and voluntarily to talk to Special Agent Brock?
Yes, she did.
How was it arranged with the defendant?
I believe it was a conversation that we had on October 5th to do an additional interview later on.
Okay. And she didn't have a problem with that?
She did not know.
How did she get to the FBI office on the 8th?
One of the investigators drove her.
Okay. And was that in part at least because her car was still being held in evidence?
Yes.
Okay. And then after the interview with Bridget Brock, where did she go? The defendant, I mean, not Bridget.
She returned to the hotel room she had been staying at.
How did she get there?
I drove her.
Your Honor, at this time I would introduce 22 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, subject to the redactions.
Thank you.
It's in, well, you may tender it.
Before I do that, I want to circle back and just publish one exhibit that I neglected to publish earlier, and that's State's Exhibit 20. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
Remind us again of what that is.
It is a web search from Leilani's phone.
All right. Does this document tell you when this search was conducted?
Yes.
And when was it conducted?
October 1st of 2022 at 1:10 a.m.
And it says on here that the source is Safari.
Yes.
What is Safari?
An internet browser.
And can you read into the record the text of that search?
Yes. Is it common for a mother to have resentment or even anger towards her child because of the father or another reason?
Now that said, I will go back to State's Exhibit 22 and publish this.
Sometimes situations, listen to me, Leilani, sometimes situations happen and it's not meant, right? And people have situations that get in where they don't know what to do and they panic, right? And the night that before Quentin disappeared, right, you had a rough day, right? Yes, right. Drugs and this right. So your mom of 3, that's stressful, right? You had your wisdom teeth taken out. You're hurting in pain, right? You still got to cook dinner for the kids. I understand you and Danny aren't getting along that night either, right? And sometimes people just get frustrated, right? And we do rash things, right? And things happen that we didn't mean to happen, right? And then we don't know how to deal with that, and we panic. And I know you know what happened. I don't know. And I know you know where Quentin is. I don't know where he is. Right. I don't know where he is. And here's why I know, right? Because the story that you already told law enforcement, that you've got that story in your mind, and you've been rehearsing it quite a while. I mean, you were like spot on what you told the other people, right? And we've already analyzed that. Your 360, right? Your cell phone data, right? Where you've been, right? And there's inconsistencies who you talk to, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So we know you to go to the Chevron station.
She was making a reference there to what she had told you and Special Agent Snyder on the 5th, right?
Yes.
And what is she saying she had told you?
That it was right next to the Chevron
The place that she met
that she
Misty?
went to. Yes.
Is that what she told you on the 5th?
It is not.
What did she tell you on the 5th?
She told us that she met Misty at the Chevron, and she wrote it in her written statement.
More than once, right?
Yes.
And that was stopped at 3 minutes into the file, which is 12:32:40 on the timestamp in the bottom left corner of the video.
Pulled in, got the order, turned around, and went back home.
And how did you turn around?
Pulled straight around neighborhood.
What neighborhood?
The one right next to Chevron, it's Azalea, right next to it.
Azalea? And what kind of neighborhood is that?
It's a trailer park.
It's a trailer park?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were in the trailer park, you pulled right back out?
Yes, I pulled it in and I pulled it out.
Okay, so why does video surveillance show you stopping
Stopping to get that order job.
within the trailer park?
Getting the order job.
You're not near the Chevron?
No, she lives near Chevron. Pulled in,
Who is she?
Misty, the one who gave me, I gave her as much information
Well,
as I could.
let's talk about that, okay? Because Misty hadn't talked to you.
Yeah, she has.
She hasn't talked to you in quite some time.
Yeah, she
And
has.
she did not have a conversation with you about the order job.
Yes.
So in your mind, you've looked at all these timestamps, and plausibly you came up with a story that's partly true.
No, that is
But
true.
there's very, very many missing pieces, right? And in your story, you haven't been completely honest about where you were at and why you were there.
I was 100% honest about where I was at. I showed the Life 360. I told him I even gave him the order gel that she gave me.
Right, and that didn't happen. We've already interviewed this.
Yeah, I got the order gel. That did happen. She got that lump inside of her mouth. And that's the reason why I asked her for it.
You have to stop saying this. It did not happen.
Yes, it did.
Right? And Lonnie, right? To get through this, you're gonna have to talk about what happened
I'm telling
and where
everybody
you took
what happened.
and where you took Quentin.
I didn't take Quentin anywhere.
Okay?
I didn't take him anywhere. He was at the house. He was in that bed. I was just here. I was just safety bar in the bed. The only thing that I sit there and possibly blame myself on is when I came back in after I smoked a cigarette that I may not have shut that door all the way. And that's why my baby may have gone somewhere. That's the only thing I've been questioning myself about. I was sleeping, had drugs in my system. I couldn't even feel my mouth. So I don't know if I locked that door and pushed it all the way in, but it was open when I got up. And I'm sticking to everything that I've said because I'm telling you the truth. I
So
questioned
let's talk
everything.
about the door. The door was closed.
No, that's what they say, but the door was open. And Danny said that when he left, that the door,
Right.
that door that they said was open from 2:30 to 5:44 was shut when he left. I think my system is messed up. And that's what I told them because the door was open when I got up and my baby was not in that bed.
Well, Lonnie, the door wasn't open.
Yes, it was.
And look,
Yes, it was. The door was open.
you said like you would never hurt or harm
No,
Quentin.
no, it wasn't.
And in this circumstance, something happened,
No,
right?
no, I did not. Nothing happened when he was in my care. I did not hurt him. I did not take him anywhere. I went to bed with that baby in the bed and I got up with him gone. Okay?
Okay.
I am devastated. I'm sitting here being questioned. Now, last night, my own husband was questioning me, making me question myself. Well, did you shut that door? Are you sure you're not the reason that something could have happened? I mean, it's all stuff like that.
Well, you keep telling yourself this story over and over. We're done with that story, right? And you can keep trying to convince yourself, but the evidence does not point to that, right? You try to put a timeline together to cover up
I didn't try to put nothing together. I had
what
to
happened
pictures
that
of it.
night, and you're the only one that can tell us what happened.
I'm told
And you said
everything that I know. Like, I didn't even
Listen,
know when he was shaking me.
Leilani, listen to me. You told me how you felt when you and your mom were abandoned on the side of the road, right?
It was devastating. It was lost. I was scared.
Right? So as a mother, look, we just want to find Quentin,
Yes,
right?
we do. We all do. I've been asking help, searching everything.
And they have been. They're still out there searching, right? But you can help us find him, right? I 100% believe that. You can help us find
He
him.
was in the bed when I went
Okay.
to sleep.
So when you left and you drove through the trailer park and you stopped for a while,
I didn't stop for a while.
you know, what we do know is that when you pulled into the trailer park, you stopped. Right? I can't imagine what was going through your mind at that time, right? Where you were trying to make a decision.
No, I stopped for, like, I was gone from the house for a total of 12 minutes. I stopped for 2 minutes, and I was getting the ordeals from her.
Right?
Pulled around, and there she was.
You didn't see Misty.
Yes, I did.
You stopped for 2 minutes, so in that 2 minutes, you weren't getting orange jail for Misty.
Yes.
I know you were sitting there thinking about what you were going to do with Quentin.
No, I was
So
not.
it's something that already happened.
No, it was not. That baby was in my bed when I went to bed. Danny seen him when he left to go to work. Okay? So no, he was home. He was in my bed. He was asleep.
Right. And we both know that's not true.
He is true. He was home. He was in, even Danny. Even he said he seen him before he went to work. So I don't understand how that could not be true. Or how I could have done something to him at, what, 1 something in the morning? That's literally physically impossible when he was seen that morning.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
I don't know about my baby.
So Danny told us that he can't 100% confirm that he actually saw Quentin in the crib that morning.
He told me that he 100% said he's seen him.
He's told us that he cannot say that. Right?
He was in my bed.
And that's different than the first night, right? That you guys talked to the police, because you put that in your statement.
Yeah, so that he told me 100% that he seen him that morning.
He cannot 100% say that he saw Quentin that morning. And so that leaves another hole in your story, right?
No, that's what he told me. That he got up my car and screaming and yelling, "Where's my baby?
I'm telling
Where's
you
my
right now,
baby?"
that's not the case. Because we know that you know what happened to
I
Quentin.
do not know what happened to
Leilani,
him.
you do.
I don't.
Right?
I don't know where he is. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know why the fuck he would be gone. He was in that bed when I went to sleep, and when I got up, he was gone. I was freaking out, screaming, yelling, crying, calling the ambulance, searching the house.
As many times as you repeat that story, it doesn't make it true.
But
Right?
it is true.
It's not true.
It is.
Right? And you talk about how much you love your
I do. I love them all, but that is true.
and you want to help us find Quentin.
Yes.
And you can do that.
And I'm trying.
Right?
I'm trying, which is why I get my phone, which is why I'm as property because I have been. I do not know where my baby is. And I wish I did because he'd be right here.
Right?
He really would.
And if you
And I'm
really,
thinking, I'm
want to
getting
know,
angry right now because I did not do anything with my child.
if you really want to help us find Quentin, help me keep that promise with you. Tell us where he's at.
I've told y'all everything. Y'all
You
have.
want to keep that promise?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm keeping it because I've told y'all everything. I even gave y'all the only thing that I had to track every single place that I've gone to. Every single place. For months I showed y'all where I went to.
Months.
Yeah, on that Life 360.
Oh, 360.
Yes, it shows my route.
We're concerned
It
about.
shows my stops. I did not do anything with that child. He was in that bed when I went to bed.
We're concerned about that night, okay? Because of inconsistency with your story and evidence to show It doesn't mean anything was done intentionally. But like I said, you were going through a lot that night. Okay?
I don't know where he is.
And being in that situation, sometimes people panic.
That's my final answer to y'all's question. I did not hurt him. I do not know where he was. And the last person that told me that he 100% seen him in that bed when I called him and asked him where Quinn was Danny. That's my last thing I've got to say. Their story has not changed. I gave y'all everything that I could. I've gone through this over and over and over and over and over.
And I'm trying to explain to you that there's inconsistencies in your story.
But I've shown everything.
And
Done everything. I did everything that I could.
it doesn't add up. It really doesn't.
It's because there's a piece of the puzzle missing, but it's not me.
It's you.
It's not.
It's absolutely.
It is not me.
It is absolutely. And you can repeat that over and over and over again. It doesn't make it true.
It's not me. It's not me. I did not do everything with my baby. I put him in the bed. I sat out his clothes for the next morning. I didn't do anything to him.
I want to help tell your story. Like I said, you know, you're a normal person. You have 3 kids. You obviously love them. You talk about, bathing them that night, playing with them, putting them to bed. That shows a caring mother.
But I didn't do anything to my baby. And if I did, just like I told my mother, y'all would have already had him. And I would already be behind bars myself. But I didn't do anything to that child. I am questioning. Are you sure that you shut that door? Are you sure that you shut it all the way? If you don't shut it all the way, the thing would just stop coming.
Right.
I don't know. You gotta push it really hard. I was loopy on my medication. Loopy as hell. I had to use Life 360 just to make sure that my times were right about when I left the house and got home.
Right. And that helps set up a timeline. But like I said, you're not being 100% completely honest with us. And I want to help Leilani tell her story about what happened, right? When we have circumstances like this, sometimes things happen. We don't mean them to. Doesn't make us a bad person. But this has been in the news a lot, right?
It's been all over.
It's.
I've been harassed at the hospital about it. Got people up in my face yelling at me.
And what did they say at the hospital?
What did they say? You're not worthy of being a mother. If anything should have happened to anybody, it should have happened to you.
Right.
So I said, I agree.
Let me tell you about. Let me go over that with you, okay? You have an opportunity to tell me what happened, because that's how society's going to see you. Is Leilani this monster that deliberately
I
did
didn't do
this,
anything to my child. I don't care for society.
or was Leilani just in a situation that got out of control?
No.
Right? And it was out of control before she knew it, right? And there was no coming back from it.
I didn't do anything to him. I'm mad at missing pieces of the puzzle, you understand? I was in that bed. Danny said he shook me. He said he checked on all the kids. He said he's seen them all. That's what he told me when I called him at 9-something, screaming that I couldn't find my baby.
So here's your statement, Leilani. I read through it. And it's like a note down here. It says, please do everything possible to bring our little man home, right? Bring him home to me, please. And that's what we're trying to do, right? And you can keep denying all this and sticking to that story. But both you and I know that you can make that happen.
If I could, I already would have.
Right? You can make this
If I
happen.
could, I already
You
would have.
absolutely can make
I
this happen.
can't, because I don't know where he is, and I don't know what happened to him. Do I believe that something happened that night? Yes. Was it me? No. It was not.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What was it?
I don't know. He was asleep before I left the house at all after we picked him up. He was asleep in that playpen. Then he verified that too.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So, okay, let's talk about that.
Now, did that interview come to an end shortly after what we just watched there?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. Aaron, I have some more questions, but maybe this would be a good stopping point.
We'll stop here. I know we have a ways to go as far as the testimony. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's stop here. We're going to break for lunch. I'm going to remind you once again, do not discuss the case, do not do any research, do not consume any media, watch any stories, do not allow anyone to talk with you about the case. We're going to break now, and it's 1:20. I know y'all have a very short walk. We're going to be ready to go at 2:30. Right? You're excused.
Jury deputy.
All right, thank you, Deputy Birch. All right, so let's take a break. We'll be back at 2:30, ready to start again. We're in recess.
All right, so as you heard, the court is in recess. They said that they would return around 2:30, and since we're on that 30-minute delay, that puts us around 3 p.m. for when this live stream will continue. This live stream is delayed 30 minutes per the judge's orders. So you can follow this case on WTOC.com, everything we've heard thus far. But until then, we'll see you guys around.